Welcome to another episode of the True You podcast. I'm Bill Tierney, I'm a compassionate results coach. And this is Dr. Martin Kettlehut, author and executive coach. Yes, and so Marty put out a blog article this morning in his newsletter. Maybe it's not a blog article. You have a blog, right? Does this land in your blog?
Blog, Substack, article, newsletter, like it's all one for me.
The article is getting a lot of reads, and justifiably so. The couple of unique things about your article, the name of the article, Impatient, great one-word grabber. And secondly, you say right in the article, hey, I used AI to help with this. But you also said, but there was something missing. Let's get into it. We only have about 30 minutes for today's episode. Let's get into it, talking about AI, talk about impatience, and really the message of your article.
Yeah, so just on the notion of AI, because it's not really the central theme, but it's interesting. I'm not an expert on this, but I suspect that why that wasn't the central observation that I think is the real coaching in the article didn't come up from AI is because it's heart-centered. It's not just facts, right? It's based on feeling, and it's about our feelings and why, and it's a really difficult one to feel too.
Yeah.
Recognize that it's that old thing where if you're pointing the finger at somebody, there are three fingers pointing back at you. It's that kind of thing. If you're being impatient, well, look at what's going on inside you. It takes patience to be with people, to be with machines, to be with anything in life. And so when you're being impatient, there's something else going on. And that's what AI didn't point at. And that, I think, is the real value that a coach brings that an artificial intelligence can't.
I have a great example that we can use, a real life example of impatience.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be helpful to do that? You think? Can we talk around that? So my wife and I've been saving up some money. We got our house paid off last year. Hallelujah. And we just took all the money that we'd been putting on toward a mortgage, and we started putting it in a savings account, recognizing that this 23-year-old roof, is that right? Yeah. 23-year-old roof that we have is going to have to be replaced.
That's an old roof.
Yeah. And so we've been socking money away since last June, and we're getting to the point where we can start getting some bits now. We can start learning what's it going to cost us to do this. How close are we in saving? How much more do we need to save? Can we save? So I must have been speaking loud enough for AI to hear me, because all of a sudden I'm getting roofers ads on Facebook as I'm scrolling through.
It's amazing. Yes.
Incredible. Well, I went to a couple of them and realized, yeah, I don't think these people are even local. But I found one that I just felt good about. And so I went ahead and filled out the form, signed up for an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was supposed to happen yesterday at 12:15. And I was very impressed with the communication the day before. Hey, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for the estimate. Roof. 4 hours before. Hey, we'll see you in about 4 hours. This is going to be fun.
I find that annoying, but anyway, some people need that.
I appreciate it. I don't bug people that much, but I do remind people that we have appointments, and there's a reason for it. I don't want to show up on Zoom for an appointment with a client and have them forget. I've got my time pretty well structured out. So I appreciate it. Even an hour before. Hey, we'll see you in an hour. This will be great. See you then.
Mm-hmm.
So 12:15 comes. I've opened up my calendar for this. No estimator. 12:30, no estimator. 12:45, no estimator. 1 o'clock, I finally send a text to this friendly bot that's been sending me texts and reminding me that they were here 45 minutes ago. And I say, where's the estimator?
Uh-huh.
And then the response is very robotic.
Uh-huh.
Sorry for the confusion, which, a robot doesn't understand that that's going to elicit frustration in me.
Right.
I'm not confused. You might be, but I'm
Right.
not confused.
Exactly. I've gotten those too.
Yeah, yeah,
We're sorry that we confused you. I'm like, I'm not confused.
right, exactly. Right. Sorry for the confusion, is what they said. So that it could be that they were confused, but still, I'm not completely convinced I'm talking to a bot on text or if it's a real person. And so I come back and say, uh, well, they were supposed to be here at 12:15, and now it's 1 o'clock. So, oh, excuse me, it was 12:45 at that point. I said, and so I need to know how far away are they? Am I going to have time, or do I need to cancel the appointment? Let me get right back with you. 15 minutes go by. I haven't heard another thing. And so they haven't gotten right back to me. In my opinion, 15 minutes is enough time to get right back with me.
That yeah, anything more than that is not right, Rick.
So I text and I say, sorry, I'm going to have to cancel the appointment. I have other appointments and I don't have time now to meet with them.
Yeah.
And, oh, I completely understand. Have a nice day. Okay, super. Great. Disappointed, a little frustrated. But during the time that I'm waiting, I'm getting like little hits of frustration and impatience. And then I'm able to regulate and calm myself down and use the time productively for other things that I can be doing.
Right.
But it still bothers me. It really bothers me that we've got this appointment that I've been reminded. It's like this big mystery. Now I finish a group yesterday at 3:30, and at 3:15 a pickup pulls up. I can see right out my window to the street out front. Pickup pulls up, two guys, and I think that wouldn't be them. This is 3 hours later. That no way that. Sure enough, they sit in their truck for a little while and they wait. And they wait and they wait and they wait. And then just as I'm saying goodbye to my group at 3:30, they come up to the door and ring the doorbell like a minute early. And I'm thinking, I'm just going to let them wait. Of course, I'm going to finish my group first, but they wait. I finish my group and I finally go to the door, and I'm not angry, but I'm mystified and I really want to know what's going on. So I say, where were you? Where have you been? Mm-hmm. After he introduces himself and shakes my hand. And he said, well, yeah, well, we actually been here for a while. We got here 15 minutes ago. And I said, yeah, I know. I saw you out on the street there. But, when you set an appointment, I think it's good to be on time. He said, well, I apologize. I had it at 3:30, but apparently the appointment was at 3:15. I said, no, the appointment was at 12:15. You're 3 hours and 15 minutes late. And so he said, oh my God, I've hired a marketing company to help me with all the communications and with the scheduling. And I'm so sorry. And so he apologized. He owned it. And he says, that's on me. And I understand completely if you don't have time to talk right now, we can reschedule, or it's my loss, whatever. So he was great about it, really. As a human being, he was great about it. But I experienced little bouts of impatience that hit me and then went away and then hit me. But when I was talking to him on the porch before I let him in the house, I was feeling that I was feeling the anger behind the impatience.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's my long-winded story that we can kind of work around now, given the points that you made in your article.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I include other examples that I was familiar with from recent encounters with people and myself. But there's that underlying, there's something else that we bring.
Yes.
That has us anxious or upset or unwilling in some way to deal with the delay. And so that, the coaching is to take a look at, well, what is that? So that you can heal that and then be with people accordingly.
Heal it, resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Heal it, return to wholeness.
Right. Exactly. And so then there are
Wholeness.
a bunch of, the practices that AI came up with are very good, but I amended them. I augmented them because they're focused on the one person who's got the impatience. And I wanted to broaden that to look at, I'm sorry, beg your pardon. They're not focused on the one who has the impatience. They're focused on how to deal with somebody who's causing you impatience.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted to make it more whole
Wanted to
and
turn it back
yeah,
around.
yes, attend to, that person that you're waiting in line behind who's having trouble getting their money out of their purse, maybe because they're holding a child and the groceries too. Like maybe you could help.
Okay.
But also look at what is it in you that's causing you to,
Yes.
diss this perfectly innocent person because they're in your speedy way. Right.
Identify triggers, I believe, is your first bullet point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So coach me. Use my example and you just offer some coaching.
Well, one of the it sounds like you identified it already.
Yeah.
You run a tight schedule, and if they say they're going to be there at 12, then they need to be there at 12, or it throws off your day.
Well, and because I've opened up that spot and they didn't show up during that window, then I don't get what I wanted, which was to know what it's going to cost me to have this roof replaced, at least by this particular company.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, I've got my phone nearby. I'm going to probably get a whole bunch more ads about roofing now.
Mm-hmm. I was in the drugstore recently looking for shaving cream, and there's certain chemicals I don't want to put on my face, and or into the environment. And so, I had been to 2, 3 stores, and also the smell is really important to me, and so I hadn't found what I want. So I walk into this natural pharmacy, and immediately the woman's very kind. She's like, "May I help you?" And I got annoyed, like, because I was bringing all of this prior experience to it, and I was snippy with her because she was too nice, and I just wanted to figure this out on my own, I guess. And so I got triggered, and then I could tell, like, she was, "What is your problem? What, who shat in your Wheaties?" kind of thing. And I immediately noticed I was having that effect on her, and I said, "Look, I'm sorry. I'm coming into the store with all this previous frustration, and you do not deserve that."
Nice.
And she said, "I sure don't."
Oh, great.
And I said, "You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. And now here's my story. Here's what I'm working on." And she was very helpful from that point on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. That's a great story. I love it. So we've identified the trigger. For me, I was afraid that I wasn't going to get what I wanted, and I was impatient and frustrated that I'd set aside the time, and was disappointed that they hadn't shown up during that period of time.
Right.
And by the way, I suspect there's something deeper too, but let's just continue here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So acknowledge your feelings.
No, there is. There always is. That's a good point. There always is, like, that's connected to some larger purpose that you are, or commitment that's getting thwarted in that moment of impatience. So there is always an underlying, and that's where that anger-like energy comes from. Impatience is, there's a plan or a commitment that or maybe a long-term purpose that is being thwarted in that moment that the delay happens. And that's why we get fiery about it.
What's your story of true self-recovery? Would you be willing to share that as a guest on the True You podcast? We'd love to hear your story, and you'll find a guest application in the show notes. Now back to the show. Yeah. And from in IFS terms, that's going to be a protector. Usually it's going to be a protector that's coming up with that angry because for me, in my system, the anger is usually there because there's a sense of powerlessness, and anger feels powerful. And gives me a sense of control and power. And then I don't have to feel that helplessness. I don't have to feel the powerlessness, which is an uncomfortable state of being, powerlessness.
Oh my God. It's the most uncomfortable state of being there is, I think.
This particular protector, I think I probably already know, although I haven't connected and asked the protector directly, but I'll be able to sense it as soon as I say this, whether I'm understanding or not. I believe that this particular protector is a stand for being respected.
There you go. Yeah, right.
And the reason this protector is so invested and so so maybe even extreme with its response to someone making a mistake and not showing up for an appointment is because it's trying to protect a part of me that feels so disrespected or felt at some point in the past so disrespected.
Exactly. And in my story, the underlying commitment was to using natural products, right?
Yep.
It wasn't just about, having to go from one store to another. It was that was all motivated by wanting to use natural products.
Well, and as you said to the helper, I can't remember the title you gave her, but the employee at the store. I brought this in with me, and you didn't deserve it. And she, it sounds like, very assertively agreed with you. Yeah, no, I did not. And I could say the same thing if I was more clear. If I'd been more clear, boy, I'm sorry for the energy behind all this anger. I brought it in with me from about 60 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we ready for the next bullet?
Yeah.
So acknowledge your feelings, and this, by the way, is reminding me of nonviolent communication, which I'm currently listening to again. Marshall Rosenberg. Acknowledge your feelings is really, really important, and that there's a big difference between feelings and thoughts. And many of us, and I'm better about it now, but it used to be true for me that if you asked me how I felt, I would tell you what I thought. Yeah, I feel so. So I feel impatient. That even that may not be a feeling. I feel impatient gets close. I think it's almost like impatient is an interpretation of why I feel the way that I feel.
I agree. Yeah, it's a higher order clustering of a bunch of feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, depending on the situation, it's not always important to have to break it down in clear detail. What is the feeling? What is the thought? But having an understanding that I feel a particular way, and usually the way that I feel emotionally is actually felt. The sensation of it is felt as energy and physicality.
Yeah.
But there's a cognitive part of it too. I feel this thing happening in my body right now because
right. That's right. Yeah. It's reminding me yesterday I'm in the middle of switching insurance companies, health insurance companies, because I found a way to save a lot of money. But the new broker is kind of all over the place. And I get impatient with her at times. And then she's got 3 or 4 different assistants, depending on what issue you're having, that she'll, delegate to talk to you about that problem. And I had been, I was getting frustrated, but I was transferred to one of the assistants, and I said, "Look, I have a very limited amount of time and I need to get this piece of information. And you're being very nice in trying to get to know me and be of great customer service. And I appreciate that, but I just need this number and to get off the phone as soon as possible." And she said, "Okay, Mr. Kettlehut, I understand. Here it is. And here's my number in case you ever want to call back."
Beautifully handled. Well done. Very well done. Yeah, I'm laughing here just because I'm remembering how bad I was at customer service back when I was in retail grocery. Oh God, I was bad. And part of the reason I was bad is because I was just so impatient. And the reason I was so impatient was because in my mind, what was important was let's get the work done.
Well, this reminds me of an old problem I haven't had in a while, but when I was in graduate school, I was very impatient with everybody because I was trying to do this profound thinking, philosophy.
Important stuff.
Everything was an obstacle to me just being able to sit and think clearly about the things. Everybody annoyed me. I was in with everything. And the underlying conversation for me was, I got important things to think about and you're in my way.
Yes. You're bothering me with all this petty stuff like speeding tickets and
right.
the rent.
Doing the laundry.
Right. Hollywood. Yes. Okay. we've tackled something here that's beyond the time that we have to really cover adequately. We've only got maybe 10 minutes left here. Let's go on maybe to reflect on your experience. Tell me about that, about what's important about that bullet point.
Well, there's a before and a middle and an after to answer that question. When you reflect on your experience, then you've got like a precedent for the next time something like this happens. Like, oh, I'm feeling impatient. Is this like that, or is it like the right? So that you can reflecting also in the middle of the experience to step back and reflect, because just give some space to
Oh, yeah.
everybody to see what's going on,
Mhm.
right? So that's my answer.
I
What would
see.
you?
So, well, just hearing your answer reminds me of how important it is, and how much time I want to spend. I don't spend as much time as I'd like to with my clients, talking about how important it is just to pause, especially
Yep.
when there is an internal trigger. And when you notice that something's happened inside, and a part of you that's got maybe an agenda from the past shows up to fulfill on that agenda in the present,
Yep.
to pause and recognize, okay, something's happening inside. There's some discomfort here. I'm actually becoming misaligned with what's really going on here. And as you did in the drugstore, you recognize by the look on the woman's face, maybe, or how she reacted to your rudeness, that, oh, there's something going on inside. So you reflected, and you
Mhm.
did that out loud in real time, which was beautiful.
Mhm.
But this is where my mind went, is that when we become activated, if we can just pause and do what Viktor Frankl wrote about and I talked about, is
Yep.
just pause enough to separate from the experience, and then notice that there now is a space in there from which we can choose. You chose to apologize and to acknowledge that you were being rude, and it changed everything.
And one of the next bullet points is about practicing pausing or meditating even
Mhm.
regularly, so that the space of reflection is always there,
Mhm.
right? You don't you don't have to fight the um heat of the moment for some reflection. You're just always in that, in that detached place in relationship to what's going on so fast in front of you. And so if you've been practicing it, that you're more likely to have less of a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes. I've been calling that space the mid-conscious, and
Yeah.
I just made that up. The reason it makes sense to me to call it the mid-conscious is because that most of my parts seem to be living in my unconscious,
Hmm.
and so I'm living my life as consciously as I am. And when I become conscious of the influence of a part of me that, let's just say, is activated by something that's happening in my current life,
Hmm.
if I want to create that space, it's often nice to be able to just meet them in what I call the mid conscious. So they come out of the unconscious. I meet them in the mid conscious. We using my imagination, we have a conversation. We connect with each other, and I begin to understand. And then here's the point I'm hearing you make, and I love this point. There's actually an exercise in one of the workbooks that I'm writing called The Sacred Space, where we create that sacred space and establish that as the meeting place when parts become activated to meet, um, to have parts of myself that are self energized or self led meet with those parts that are struggling or reacting, and basically mediate, negotiate, connect, understand, really address whatever concerns are coming up. And I
Yeah.
love what you're saying. Let's go ahead and establish that ahead of time rather than at the hardest time in the world in your life when you possibly could try to do that.
It's hard to expect you if you don't have it, as a practice already. You're not going to be able to
No,
conjure.
no, you're not going to be able to do it when otherwise you'd be road raging or screaming at the drugstore attendant or
Exactly. Right. Or pulling your hair out like you and I've done.
right. Let's go to slow down. Are we already
That's part of the
yeah,
bullet point about practicing. Yep. Hmm.
set realistic goals?
Yeah. Well, I think that's profound, and that's a piece of AI that noticed that. Uh, in other words, it's out there in the literature, but yeah, because as I'm saying, it's ultimately in you, and then the impatience starts. If your goals are realistic, then you don't develop that impatience with yourself. Like, how come I can't do this? Well, it's unrealistic.
Well, or how come people can't keep their commitments? That often is unrealistic as well. In fact, sometimes it takes the experience of having someone make a commitment and not keep it before you realize that's what's realistic. And at that point, your expectations might change for that particular person, or maybe that's a prompt to have a conversation with them and say, hey, listen, when you make a commitment to me, it's important that you keep it. Otherwise, I'm not willing to continue to negotiate collaboration with you.
This comes up a lot in my executive coaching. People that I coach expecting way too much of themselves, and the people that they work with, or their bosses expecting way too much of them. And I'm just like, well, then don't do it. Like, don't tell me that you're going to do this coaching homework if you're not. Like, be in integrity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
This one guy, he comes to every coaching call. It starts with, I'm sorry that he's late, that he didn't do the homework, that he didn't even think about what we talked about last time. I'm like, well, maybe now's not a good time to do coaching. No, I don't want to live this life. Okay. Then what are you going to cut out or do, faster, or, like, what? Give me a clue as to how this is going to change.
you have a client with a racket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry is the way that racket gets itself away.
Yeah, exactly.
I am the guy that doesn't keep my commitments, and there's something I'm looking for from it, but I'm not consciously aware of it. So I need to do some exploring so I can find that. I'll make commitments to do work between sessions, but then I'll come back and I'll be late for the session, or I'll miss the session, or I will not have done the work, and I just get to show up sorry. And that something about that is valuable to me. It gives me something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it is because I haven't slowed down long enough to explore it, but I've been doing it since I was 2.
Yeah.
Those are some fun conversations to have, but they're hard to get into.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we've got just a few minutes left here. I want to acknowledge how edgy you have been in your writing lately. By that I mean you're just kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. You're getting right to the edge of comfort for a lot of readers, and I think that might invite a little more interest than the whole hum. Let's be nice and talk about what everybody talks about. Articles that maybe I have a tendency to write. Let's be safe. Let's not fluff any feathers. But boy, feathers are fluffed everywhere right now, aren't they?
That's the thing. It's like, I know I'm not going to be able to not fluff feathers, so let's dive in head first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm a little concerned about your client who might be listening to this podcast.
Oh, he doesn't have time.
You might want to send him a copy of this. We do need to wrap up, and let's not make the commitment like we have in the past that, oh boy, there's so much more we can talk about. Let's do it again later, because we don't really have the structure in place. We're not really reliable to keep our word on that. And I just want to acknowledge that right now that you have, both of us have in the past said, let's do this again. Let's talk more about this in a future episode. And then we never get back around to it. And there's a reason why we don't get back around to it, because every time we get together to meet,
we got more to talk about.
We have more to talk about. We're living life boots on the ground and feeling challenged by whatever's being presented, or we're excited about what's been happening with our clients. And that's what we want to be talking about. We want to be following the passion that's leading us right now into the next moment.
But we could put a link in the show notes to the articles.
Please do that. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So if you're listening and you'd like to read the rest of the article, which I highly recommend, look for a link in show notes. And if as you're listening here, if you have enjoyed this conversation, please like the podcast and share it with your friends, and let's help us to get some more listeners. We're both committed to making a difference in the world and have fun while we're doing it.
Absolutely.
Until next episode, take care, Marty.
Bye.
We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.